Have you ever prayed and felt like heaven was ignoring you? Like your words just hit the air? No echo, no warmth, no response? You're not alone. Thousands feel the same. They pray, they worship, they fast. But inside, there's still a spiritual silence, a weight, a sense that something isn't right, that something's missing. And deep down, they're asking, where is God? Why does it feel like he's distant? But maybe the real question isn't, where is God? Maybe it's what's blocking you from hearing him. There's a silent killer in the secret place, a spiritual thief dressed as pleasure, one that strips you of your fire, your clarity, your connection with the Holy Spirit, and you barely notice it, because it feels good, it feels natural, but it is spiritual poison. I'm talking about masturbation. You might be thinking, why bring this up? Isn't that personal? Yes, it is. And that's exactly why it's so powerful, because it's in the places no one sees that the greatest battles are lost. Every time you release, you're not just letting go of tension, you're releasing spiritual potential. You're draining the energy meant for your calling, your prayers, your ability to hear the voice of God with clarity. Think about it. How do you feel after? You feel heavy. Your mind is foggy. You avoid prayer. Your worship is weaker. You feel ashamed. That's not just guilt. That's a spiritual disconnect. It's a weakening of the antenna God placed in your soul to stay tuned to him. Prayer loses its power when your spirit is constantly bleeding energy. You can't walk in fire while secretly living in chains. You can't command the enemy when you're bowing to your own impulses. God is holy, and you, yes you, were created in his image. That means your body is not a playground. It's a temple, and every misuse of it creates spiritual static that blocks your authority in prayer. This is why so many feel stuck spiritually. They think they're doing everything right. They read the Bible. They go to church. They even cry out to God. But in the shadows, they're giving away the very oil they need to burn. No one talks about this because it's uncomfortable, because it's taboo, because most leaders are fighting the same battle in silence. But I'm not here to play church. I'm here to speak truth, to expose the invisible prison holding back the chosen ones, and to remind you that this habit, this secret cycle, is not who you are. You were never created to live stuck between shame and short-term pleasure. You were created to walk in divine authority, to release heaven when you pray, to shake the spirit realm when you speak. And right now, that authority is asleep inside of you. But it's not dead. It's waiting for you to choose purity over comfort, power over pleasure, purpose over momentary release. This message is not for the crowd. It's for the called. If you're still watching, it means God hasn't given up on you. And deep down, neither have you. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal next may unlock the spiritual fire you've been crying out for. And this time, you won't walk away empty. Let me ask you something real, something raw. When was the last time you actually felt the fire in your prayer? When was the last time you prayed and knew heaven heard you? Not just believed it, but felt it in your bones. If you've lost that connection, it's not because God walked away. It's because something has been quietly pulling you in another direction. Something subtle, something spiritual, something that wears a mask of pleasure but leaves you powerless when it's time to fight in prayer. Masturbation is not just a habit, it's a spiritual exchange. And every time you engage with it, you're not just releasing tension, you're releasing territory. Territory that was meant to be yours in the spirit. Territory God gave you authority over through your words, your worship, your intercession. So here's what we're going to do. This isn't just another video. This is war, and war is fought on your knees, in the presence, in agreement. I want you to go down to the comments right now, not later now, and write, "Pray for me." Just those 3 words. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify. God already knows. But when you put it in writing, you're breaking silence. You're coming into agreement with heaven. And I will pray for you. We will pray together. Not just a quick line. Real intercession. Because the chains you're carrying were never meant to stay. There's power in confession. There's healing in exposure. There's freedom in surrender. So write it. Pray for me. And if this word is piercing through you, if something in your spirit is saying, "This is for me," then don't just scroll away. Hit the like button. That simple act tells the algorithm, This message matters, and it helps this reach another person who's drowning in silence. And if you're not subscribed yet, do that now, because we don't release content. We release deliverance. We release fire. We release truth that this generation is too afraid to say. And if you made it this far, I know one thing for sure. You're not just watching, you're waking up. So say it out loud, whisper it if you need to. God, I'm ready. Because the next moment of this video, that's where everything starts to shift. Let's go deeper. I was 13, alone, quiet, facing a screen. I didn't even know what I was doing at first. It wasn't rebellion. It wasn't lust. It was curiosity. It felt harmless, quick, private. But in that one moment, a moment that felt like nothing, something in me shifted. I remember the silence that followed, the kind that makes the room feel colder than it is. Something left me, and I couldn't explain it. But I felt it, not physically, spiritually. I didn't know the language for it back then, but now I do. That was the day I traded my divine energy for temporary relief. That was the day I began to silence the voice of God with the noise of pleasure. And from that point forward, every time I did it, something inside dimmed, just a little more. My focus started to fade. My clarity was weaker. My boldness gone. My spiritual discernment confused. And prayer. It felt like I was just repeating words into a void. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Why was my fire for God going out? Why did I feel so distant, even when I tried to get close? Why did I feel unworthy every time I tried to pray? Because I was giving away the very oil that was supposed to keep my lamp burning. Every act of masturbation wasn't just a private struggle. It was a spiritual transaction. I was releasing spiritual strength, not just physical substance. No one warned me. No one taught me that this isn't just biology. It's warfare. The moment you do it, it feels like peace. But it's false. It's counterfeit. It's artificial calm that steals your authority. You don't realize what you've lost until the next time you go to pray, and you feel that block, that static, that distance. This is what no one talks about in church. This is what no one wants to admit. But silence is what keeps us bound, and truth is what sets us free. I want you to understand something very real right now. You are not just a body. You are spirit. You are breath. You are divine energy wrapped in flesh. You carry something sacred, and the enemy knows it. He doesn't need to destroy your life if he can just distract your spirit. He doesn't need to ruin your calling if he can just drain your clarity. He doesn't need to block your purpose if he can just keep you numbing your soul. And it starts early, quietly, through a screen, in a room where no one is watching but heaven and hell. I wish someone had told me that when I was 13. I wish someone had looked me in the eyes and said, "You're not just touching yourself. You're touching your calling. You're touching your identity. You're touching your future." But no one did. So now, I'm telling you, because someone has to break the silence. Someone has to say what everyone else is too afraid to admit. Someone has to bring this darkness into the light. And if you're still here, still reading, still breathing, then maybe you're that someone too. Because deep down you felt it, that voice, that whisper, telling you this isn't who you are, this isn't what you were created for. You weren't designed for the cycle, for the guilt, for the shame. You were created for glory, for fire, for divine power flowing through you without interruption. And this isn't just about behavior. This is about who you are becoming every time you give in, and every time you choose not to. So let me ask you now, have you ever felt that voice inside of you? The one that speaks after the silence, after the pleasure, after the guilt, whispering, "This is not who I am," because I felt it. And I believe you have too. If you've ever felt that internal cry, that inner nudge from God, that ache in your spirit, then I want you to do something simple, but bold. Go to the comments right now and write, "I felt it." Let that be your public agreement with heaven, your line in the sand, your first step into light. I want to see how many chosen ones are waking up right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, now, because we are just getting started. You think you're just losing semen, but that's the surface. That's the distraction. Because what you're really losing is spiritual data. Every time you masturbate, something sacred escapes you. You're not just releasing fluid, You're releasing the code of your mission, the encrypted spiritual intelligence designed by God Himself, the very energy meant to build your legacy, shape your future, manifest your calling. It's leaking out of you in moments of weakness dressed as pleasure. What you're losing is your fire, your sight, your intensity, your divine intuition. Have you noticed how your perception dulls after it happens? How your clarity becomes fog, your fire turns to embers? The spiritual frequency you once heard God on becomes static. That's not random. It's not just in your head. It's the result of a spiritual short circuit, a disconnection from source, triggered by the misuse of your own sacred energy. You were created to carry power. You were designed to radiate light. But instead of building the kingdom, you're emptying yourself into pixels, into fantasy, into nothing. And each time you get dimmer. The glow in your eyes? Gone. The voice of the Holy Spirit? Quieter. The hunger to worship? Dissipated. The confidence to pray boldly? Eaten alive by shame. Why? Because your life force is being redirected. The very energy meant to birth visions, lead nations, build families, shape generations. It's being spilled on the altar of comfort. And let me tell you something you won't hear in school, in church, or in therapy. Masturbation isn't a neutral act. It's spiritual warfare disguised as self-soothing. It is a weapon the enemy uses, not by attacking you, but by making you attack yourself. You think you're finding relief, but you're funding your own destruction. You think it's just biology, but it's biological warfare. Because if Satan can't kill your body, he'll settle for draining your spirit. He doesn't need you to fall in public. He just needs you to stay broken in private. You were born with energy assigned to your divine destiny. Creative energy, prophetic energy, healing energy, leadership energy. Energy that flows when it's preserved. Energy that manifests when it's honored. But every time you give it away in secret, you're building the very prison you keep asking God to deliver you from. And the worst part? It's become so normalized that you think it's just part of being human. But being human doesn't mean being enslaved. It means being the image of God on earth. And you cannot carry the image of God while distorting His design for pleasure, power, and purpose. There is a reason so many men today walk around with no vision, no drive, no urgency in the spirit. They're not lazy. They're empty, drained, spiritually weak, not because God left them, but because they keep trading power for moments of illusion. You are not here to survive. You are here to lead, to carry weight in the unseen realm, to declare things and see them move. But you cannot do that while your altar is defiled. And make no mistake, your body is an altar. You either burn offerings of worship, or you burn your purpose in moments of secret pleasure. This is not just a physical act. This is a spiritual leak. And every drop that escapes takes with it a piece of your destiny. Some of you haven't prayed with fire in years, not because you don't love God, but because your spirit is too tired to burn. Some of you feel far from God, not because He's far, but because you've opened a door you don't even realize is still bleeding you out. And it has to stop. Not out of guilt, not out of fear, but because you are far too important in the spirit to keep throwing your power away. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are called. But the power you were born with can only flow when you close the leaks. And it starts by seeing what you've been losing for what it really is. Not fluid, fire, not shame, strength, not lust, legacy. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you next will unlock what hell's been trying to hide from you all along. You think it's your decision. You think you're in control. You think you chose to do it again. But let me be clear, you didn't. That urge you felt wasn't freedom. It was a program, a trigger, a command you didn't even realize you were obeying. You think you're the one in charge, but you're reacting to a system designed to break you from the inside out. This isn't about lust. It's about slavery. It's about energetic manipulation, spiritual warfare that operates in silence, right under your nose. Do you know why porn is free? Because your energy is not. Every click, every video, every fantasy, it's a trade. Your fire for comfort, your clarity for chaos, your authority for addiction. And while you feel like you're escaping stress, the truth is, you're being studied, analyzed, tracked. Spiritual forces watch what excites you, what triggers you, what weakens you. They learn how to access you. And when you obey that urge again and again, you reinforce their permission to control your thoughts, your desires, your sleep, your creativity, your willpower. You're not being satisfied. You're being hijacked. This was never just about pleasure. It was about programming your mind to seek destruction wrapped in dopamine, to make you believe that stimulation equals peace. But peace never comes, only the crash. And then, the shame, the silence, the numbness. That's not random. That's strategy. Because the enemy doesn't need to stop your calling. He just needs you too distracted, too tired, too spiritually empty to walk in it. He doesn't need you to fall publicly. He just needs you to fall privately. And when no one sees it, you start to believe the lie that this is just your struggle, that it's part of life, that maybe this is normal. But it's not normal. It's not natural to wake up with guilt. It's not divine to repeat the cycle over and over and feel weaker every time. It's not holy to feel ashamed when you try to worship. That's not conviction. That's a leash. And some of you have been wearing it for years. You've spiritualized your bondage. You've convinced yourself that it's under control. But the truth is, you haven't controlled it. It's controlled you. And that's the lie that keeps you quiet. Because if you admit it, you'll have to face how deep this goes. So you stay in the loop. Pleasure, guilt, apathy, escape, pleasure again. You pray, but the fire doesn't come. You fast, but your spirit feels dry. You read the word, but nothing breaks open. Because this habit doesn't just drain you, it programs you to stop seeking spiritual answers. You start believing you'll never be free. You start lowering your expectations with God. You stop asking for more. And that is when you become numb. That numbness? That's not peace. That's not maturity. That's spiritual sedation. The enemy's goal isn't to tempt you. It's to train you, to think like a slave, to respond like a slave, to worship like a slave, to believe that God is distant, when in reality, it's you who's been disconnected. And that disconnection is by design, because as long as you're ruled by impulse, you'll never walk in spiritual discipline. As long as you're seeking escape, you'll never step into war. And make no mistake, this is war. But you weren't born for silence. You weren't made to be passive. You weren't created to be a puppet in a system of control. You were born to discern, to see, to expose, to war, to win. So if you're watching this and something inside you is shaking right now, that's your spirit remembering who you are. That's your soul waking up. That's your divine identity calling you out of the cycle and back into fire. And if your eyes are open now, if you're finally starting to see the programming, the trap, the spiritual setup, then write it in the comments right now. I see it now. Let hell know you're not asleep anymore. Let heaven see you're ready to break the loop. Let your future self thank you for the moment you stood up and said, I see it now. Because once your eyes open, you can never go back. When I finally broke the cycle, I didn't feel proud at first. I felt broken. I cried. But it wasn't just regret. It wasn't shame. It was the first time in years that I felt clean. My mind wasn't just clearer. It was alive. My heart was still, but not numb. It was present. And then I heard it. His voice. Not like thunder, not like a sermon. Just that whisper I hadn't heard in so long. I never left you. And that moment shattered me. Not because I realized what I had lost, but because I realized how much of it I could get back. You see, when you live in a cycle of spiritual numbness, you start to believe the lie that you've wasted too much. Too many years, too many chances, too many prayers with no answer. But heaven doesn't count time the way we do. God doesn't waste what was surrendered in brokenness. And when I finally laid that secret sin on the altar, I didn't just receive forgiveness, I received fire. Because the energy you were losing, that creative, divine, masculine power, it doesn't disappear forever. When you start to guard it, when you protect it, when you let it rise in you instead of releasing it into emptiness, it transforms. It becomes insight. It becomes prophetic boldness. It becomes vision. You begin to see with different eyes. Your mind sharpens. Your walk carries weight again, and the atmosphere around you, it begins to shift. Why? Because energy that's preserved becomes energy that's directed. And when your energy is aligned with your calling, you begin to manifest what once felt impossible. This isn't theory. This is reality. And I'm living proof. I started waking up early again, not from obligation, but because something in me was stirring. I began praying with conviction, not repetition. I started feeling the fire in worship, not just lifting hands, but lifting authority. And people noticed, not because I was preaching louder, but because something in my spirit had shifted. Masturbation had stolen something I didn't know I needed: spiritual discipline, emotional strength, divine confidence. You may think this is just about a habit, but the truth is, it's about your government, the way you govern yourself spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And when you begin to rule over your impulses, instead of being ruled by them, you become royal again. Because make no mistake, a chosen one who masturbates isn't just hurting their body, they're sabotaging their crown. But a chosen one who guards their fire, protects their oil, and honors their temple, that one gets crowned. Crowned with clarity, crowned with influence, crowned with authority in the unseen realm. And here's the wild part. It doesn't take years to come back. It starts the moment you make the decision. Not to fight by willpower, but to surrender with faith. Not to resist for applause, but to preserve for purpose. I know what you've been told, that men are just wired this way, that it's biological, that it's harmless, that it's not that deep. But they didn't tell you that you were made in the image of a God who creates through restraint, a God who manifests through order, a God who births destiny through holiness. You weren't built to be normal. You weren't called to blend in with the culture. You were chosen to set a new standard, not just for your life, but for the next generation watching you. Because your recovery isn't just about you. It's about the ripple effect. It's about the future leaders you'll mentor, the family you'll protect, the prayers you'll release that shake the unseen. So don't let the enemy lie to you. You haven't lost too much. You're not too far gone. You're not too weak. You are closer than you've ever been. If you feel even the smallest flicker of hope right now, even the tiniest spark, protect it, feed it, pray into it. Because what's coming next is going to awaken something even deeper inside of you, something ancient, something eternal, and you'll never see yourself the same way again. You might fall again. Let's be honest. Cycles don't break overnight. Patterns built over years don't always disappear in a single prayer. There might still be moments where the urge feels unbearable, the silence louder than God's voice, the screen closer than His presence. But here's the truth. Even if you fall again, you will never fall unconsciously again. You will never fall as the same person. Because something has been awakened in you, something holy, something divine, something that will not go back to sleep. This isn't just another YouTube video. This was a spiritual encounter. You didn't click on this by accident. You didn't watch this far by chance. You were summoned, called, pulled into this moment because the heavens saw something in you that maybe you forgot was there. You're not watching this to be entertained. You're watching because your spirit was starving, because something in your soul needed to be shaken. And now, it has. You don't need a preacher to confirm it. You don't need a platform to validate it. You just need to pause, right now, and feel what's shifting inside of you. This is not guilt. It's not shame. It's warrior awareness. It's the realization that for too long, you've been battling asleep. But now, your eyes are open. Your spirit is alert. Your ears are tuned again. And I know, the enemy's not happy about it. There will be temptations. There will be moments where your flesh will scream louder than your faith, where the screen will call, where your own body will beg for escape. But now, you know the truth. You know what's really at stake. You know that every time you say no, even if your hands are trembling, you are reclaiming a piece of your destiny. This isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. It's about choosing alignment over addiction. It's about remembering that you carry something sacred, even when you feel weak. Do you understand the magnitude of what's happening inside of you right now? God is not looking for sanitized saints. He's looking for awakened warriors, for men and women who know the weight of their own weakness, but choose to rise anyway. People who remember what they've done, but refuse to let that define what they will become. That last fall, it might have been recent. It might have felt like proof that you're not strong enough. But listen to me. That last fall can become the foundation of your first ascension. Because now, you've tasted truth. Now, you've seen behind the curtain. Now, you've named the enemy. Now, you've stood in the light. And once you've seen, You cannot unsee. From this moment forward, every temptation will hit differently, because now your eyes are open. Now your mind understands. Now your spirit is involved. And that is the beginning of transformation. You're not a slave. You're not your past. You're not what you've done. You are what God whispered about you before time began. You are the manifestation of divine fire in a generation that's forgotten how to burn. So yes, you might fall again, but every time you rise, even if it's slow, even if it's messy, you're rising with intention. You're rising with vision. You're rising with authority. And you will rise enough times that hell begins to panic, because it will realize you're not a slave anymore. You're a chosen one remembering his crown. There are others waking up just like you, others who felt that same darkness, who thought they were alone, but they're finding their voice again, finding their power again, and now you're one of them. So if this message touched something in your soul, if you felt a shift, if you felt a tear, if you felt seen in ways you didn't know you needed, I want you to take a bold step right now. Go to the comments and write, "I am awake." Not for me, not for likes, but as a declaration in the spiritual realm, as a banner over your life that says, "I am not who I was yesterday," as a testimony that you're no longer numb, no longer distracted, no longer asleep. You are awake. And this was only the beginning. Get ready, because what comes next will set your soul on fire. If you felt the voice of God whisper to you in this video, if something inside you trembled, awakened, or broke, then this is not the end. It's the beginning of a journey you were born to walk, a journey of fire, of freedom, of purpose. So here's what I need you to do right now. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel, because this isn't just content. It's a movement for the chosen ones, a space where the numb are set on fire, where the forgotten remember who they are, and where those who fell rise. If you made it to the end, that means your spirit is hungry. So honor that hunger. Tap the like button, not for ego, but to tell the algorithm, this message needs to reach more souls. And in the comments, I want you to write, "I am storing power," because that's exactly what's happening. Every decision, every act of discipline, every moment you say no to the old and yes to the calling, you're building spiritual momentum. You're storing divine energy. You're preparing for a supernatural breakthrough. And this next video, it's going to show you exactly why you've been feeling what you've been feeling, why you've been more sensitive, more stirred, more intense, because you are storing energy without knowing, and it will soon explode your reality. Click on it now. Don't stop here. God's not finished speaking, and your spirit is just getting started.